Hello and welcome back to Geek and Speak, the Geek and Seek podcast. Today, Steven and I are going to be talking about our top 10 cards from Dominaria United. And all of a sudden, my allergies just started hitting me. I'm dying. So what we did was we each made our own top 10 list, and then we averaged them out so that we just have one list to talk about. But that meant that there are a couple honorable mentions that we're just going to get out of the way real quick. I had two honorable mentions to start us off. Number one is The Cruelty of Geek, which is a 5-mana legendary, enchantment saga with Read Ahead, which Read Ahead I think is an awesome new way to do sagas. So I'm excited to see more of that and play more of that in the future. Chapter 1, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a creature or a planeswalker card from it, and that player discards that card. Chapter 2, search your library for a card, put that card in your hand, and you lose 3 life. So basically Grim Tutor. In Chapter 3, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Notice it can be any graveyard. So I think this is really a testament to the power of Read Ahead, that you can really choose any of those. And then if you have the time, you can just, choose to have all of them just over the course of a longer period. So I think that really is a testament to the power of the read ahead mechanic, and also just why I think sagas are a lot of fun. And then my other honorable mention is Jaya, Fiery Negotiator. 4-mana planeswalker with 4 loyalty, 4 abilities, +1, create a 1/1 monk token with prowess. -1, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You can play one of them this turn. -2, choose target creature and opponent controls whenever you attack this turn. She deals that much damage equal to the number of attacking creatures you control. And -8, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a red instant or sorcery spell. Copy it twice. You may choose new targets from the copy. So I'm a big believer that you can't judge planeswalkers by their ultimates, but I think that ultimate is a good way to end games if you can get to that point. But I mean, this is one of the best 4-mana planeswalkers we've seen in a long time, as far as just like, it's fair, but it's really stinking good. I think this is just like one step below, like even like the Chandra from Kaladesh. I think like this is like right up there with how good it is as far as just being like a 4-mana planeswalker. It has a lot of flexibility. It protects itself really well by adding to the board. It gives you card advantage. It can deal damage. It can close out the game if you can somehow get to that ultimate. Awesome planeswalker. Steven, why don't you go ahead and guide us through your 1 or 2 honorable mentions before we get to our actual list?
I bet. So one of the honorable mentions I have is Quirion Beastcaller. It's a Dryad Warrior creature for 1 and a green. Its power and toughness are both 2. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on Quirion Beastmaster. And when Quirion Beastmaster dies, distribute X 1/1 counters among any number of target creatures you control, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on Quirion Beastmaster. Or Beastcallers, my bad. So part of why I like it is just, it's, especially in a very creature-heavy deck, you're going to be getting Quirion Beastcaller really big. And if he were to die, or if she were to die, you would distribute all those 1/1 counters among any number of creatures that you control. So, I mean, in a specific deck, it might make sense to just sack that creature, make all your other creatures significantly larger.
Well, and especially in Standard right now, that's really good because almost all of the good decks in Standard right now are playing black, so they just have sack fodder anyways. So if you were playing like a Golgari deck and you had that in there, it's going to be a really effective attacker. It's going to be a really effective blocker. And then when it's time to spread it out across the rest of your team, it's really easy to get rid of it. So yeah, I think that card's actually going to be really good.
And it's for only 2 mana.
Right.
So green's doing what green likes to do.
Did you have another honorable mention?
I did have another one. This one's called Vesuvan Diplomacy.
Diplomacy?
Whatever. Y'all got it. Y'all can read. I can't. It's a blue enchantment for 3 and a blue. Whenever you cast a spell that targets only a single artifact or creature you control, create a token that's a copy of that artifact or creature, except it's not legendary. The reason why I like this card so much is one of my favorite decks to play is a token deck, Ajax and Nev Twin Casters as the commander. If you can target, if you have this on the battlefield and you can target Ajax and Nev, you'll create a non-legendary token, or two of them technically. Because of the first Ajax and Nev, you'll create two of them, and then next time you would create a token, you create 6 times as many tokens as you would create, because you would have 3.
That is probably your strongest deck, and I have seen it to where he is having like multiple copies of multiple copies, and the stack gets really confusing, and like your only way out is a board wipe, but then the deck is green, so he's just going to rebuild right away. So it's really actually hard to play around. But yeah, I haven't really got to see it be too good yet, but it reminds me a lot of the legendary creature Orvar, who is from Kaldheim, where you copy a permanent that you control whenever it becomes the target of a spell you control. So it reminds me a lot of that, and I think we might get some similar shenanigans, and then that card specifically in an Orvar deck would be bonkers.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's also just cool that you'll be able, it's just another thing to give you, to make tokens that are copies of a legendary creature, because then that copy will not be legendary.
Right.
So
yeah, and that in the day and age where everything that Wizards of the Coast prints is legendary, that's important because it makes constructed a lot easier when you don't have to worry about the legend rule. Yes. So, Steven, let's go ahead and get into our actual top 10. So, from now on, these are cards that we, for the most part, both agreed on. There's a couple cards on here that we weren't in both of our top 10s, but because of how high we ranked them, they still ended up on the list. But, Steven, why don't you go ahead and read us our number 10 card on the list?
All right, so number 10 was Rivaz of the Claw, which is a red and black legendary creature for 1, a black and a red. Legendary via Shino Warlock.
Sure.
Power and toughness are both 3. He's got menace. You can tap him to add 2 mana of any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast dragon creature spells. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a dragon creature spell from your graveyard. And whenever you cast a dragon creature spell from your graveyard, it gains. When this creature dies, exile it. So, I mean, Morgan really likes dragons specifically.
I used to have a Jund dragon deck, and I wish I still had it, because this would go in there. It would be so good in there. I currently, I think Mir is the name of the commander. It's the new Tamir one from Baldur's Gate, so it doesn't have black, so I can't put it in there, but I'm thinking about building it 5 color, so I can add this. But this would, I mean, if you're playing a dragon deck with black, I mean, this is so good. It's going to help you get things back. It's going to help you ramp. It's a decent body by itself, a 3 mana, 3/3 flyer. Like
menace.
And menace, yeah. So
no, it doesn't have flying.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Even then, I think it's still like a decent card. And yeah, if you're playing a dragon deck and have black, I think this is great.
For sure.
All right, what is number 9 on the list?
Number 9 is Braid's Arisen Nightmare. Is a black legendary creature, legendary nightmare for 1 and 2 black. Power and toughness are both 3. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with it. For each opponent who doesn't, that player loses 2 life and you draw a card.
So this wasn't on my list. So Steven, why is this card on the list? Why do you like this card? Well, and also, did you know that back when Commander had 2 different ban lists, they used to have a list for cards that were banned as your commander, and then but they could still be in your 99. And then they had a separate list that was just an overall ban list. And originally, the other black Braid was only banned as a commander, but could be in your 99. But when they condensed it all into one list, it's just straight up banned. But it does a similar thing. So that kind of scares me. But why do you specifically like this card? Because it doesn't really seem to fit your play style. No,
but it's really cool because you can either you're helping get rid of other people's boards by making them stat creatures, or if they don't, they'll lose a life and you draw a card for each opponent who doesn't do it. So either way, you're either getting rid of their other board, or they're losing a little bit of life and you're getting card draw.
Is it 3 or 4 mana?
3. For 3 and 2 black. I don't know if I said that.
What?
3 total, 1 colorless, 2 black.
Okay. That is pretty dang good. I have a Thraxamundar deck, and I have a lot of games where I just straight up don't cast the commander, but it's just like a sacrifice deck, and I feel like it might need to go in there. It seems like it would be really strong in there. But what's the next card on the list?
Next card on the list is Sphinx of Clear Skies.
Yeah.
Which is obviously it's a creature Sphinx for 3 colorless and 2 blue. 5/5 with flying and ward 2 colorless. Domain. When Sphinx of Clear Skies deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. An opponent separates those cards into 2 piles, put one in your hand and the other in your graveyard.
So, first of all, I love Ward. I think we got it for the first time in Strixhaven last year, I think was the first time we saw it. But I think it's a lot more fair than like Hexproof, because Hexproof, it's just like your only option out is to make them sacrifice it or to board wipe.
Yeah,
whereas Ward is like, I mean, I've seen Ward cards where it's, it's like Ward 4 or something crazy like that, and it's like, okay, at that point I might as well just board wipe.
It's still more fair than just hexproof.
Yeah.
Like having...
I'm not saying I never want to see hexproof again, but I like Ward way more. I think it's way more fair and creates a lot more fun play patterns. But the reason I specifically like this card is if you are playing a 4 or 5 color deck, maybe even a 3 color deck, and you have good land base, like you have the Triomes, you have the Shock lands. I don't know how you could afford, but the original duels, or even if you're just playing on a budget and you're playing a lot of basic land ramp and you can fix your mana really well. I feel like a lot of the time this card is just basically Fact or Fiction, and the fact that it's a reusable Fact or Fiction makes it so fun, because I think that is one of my favorite. Fact or Fiction is one of my favorite blue cards because it creates it creates a fun experience at the table, because it's going to be card advantage for you no matter what. Especially in I have it in my Muldrotha deck, because even those cards that are going to my graveyard are still going to be accessible later. But it creates this really fun political element where you can try to make an ally with someone else at the table. So this is specifically a commander card. I don't think this is something you would really play anywhere else. Though I haven't actually played against it in Limited yet, but it seems like it would be good there too. Anything else you want to add about that card, or you kind of agree with? It just seems fun. Yeah,
it's a fun blue card. I mean,
I don't even think it's necessarily that good. I just think it's fun.
It is fun.
It'll create fun political scenarios.
Yep.
So what's the next card on the list?
Number 7 on the list is Jodah the Unifier. He's every
for
color.
Wooburg.
He's Wooburg, yeah. One of every color, and that's it.
Good luck
he's a
casting
5/5
that ahead of curve.
5/5 legendary creature, human wizard. Legendary creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of legendary creatures you control. Whenever you cast a legendary spell from your hand, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a legendary non-land card with lesser mana value. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order.
It's a Cascade, but for legendary creatures. It's a side note. This card is bonkers and limited because there's just in Dominaria United there are just so many legendaries that even if you don't have to commit to the theme, and because of all those basic dual lands, it's so easy to fix your mana, and the ping lands too, but less so there. It's just so easy to fix your mana, so it's relatively easy to play 5 colors, and then you're just already playing a bunch of legendaries because there are so many in the set. This is bonkers. I saw a bunch of 9/9s and 10/10s, and I was like, oh, I'm dead. I'm so dead. But Steven, you have a Jodah the Archmage deck, or
yes.
the Jodah from last time we were at Dominaria.
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to replace it? Is it going to go in the 99? Do you think you don't have enough legendaries in that deck for it to matter? Tell me a little bit about that.
I'd say especially in a deck like Jodah, when I'm just going to be cast, a lot of the really good, really big creatures are legendary. This definitely should go in the 99. I don't think this should replace the commander, though. I don't think that would be smart. Because the point of the deck is to cheat them into play. And although you are kind of doing that with Jodah the Unifier, I still think it would be more beneficial to have Archmage Eternal as the commander.
Yeah, so in that
just
specific
Jodah,
deck,
just
but,
Jodah on the 99.
But how many, in order to make that card like really good, how many legendary creatures do you think you need in the deck? If you're not having this as the commander and you have it in the 99, how many specific legendary creatures do you think you need in the deck in order to make it worth it?
I'd say probably a lot.
That's a number. Yeah.
I don't know, but most creatures. Probably.
I would, yeah. So that's something. If you get that for that deck, I would recommend thinking about adding some more legendaries. But I will say that forget Sisay, forget the new Planeswalker commanders. If you want to build a Legendary Matters commander, this is by far the best one. It's not even close anymore. Like Sisay from I think it was the first Modern Horizons. She was a great Legendary Matter commander, but I mean, Jodah is just so much better. It's not even funny. What's the next card on the list?
Next card on the list, number 6, and this card isn't even.
We both liked this one.
It's fun. It's not necessarily kind of like Sphinx with Clear Skies. It's not exactly like that good. It's just cool.
It's cool. Yeah.
Shivan Devastator. It's a Dragon Hydra for X and a red. It's a 0/0 flying haste. When Shivan Devastator enters the battlefield with X1 counters on it. And the reason why I like it is because we have similar things before where you could pay X and like the creature's power and toughness is equal to X, but we don't really have that in red a whole lot.
It reminds me a lot of Mistcutter Hydra, but Mistcutter Hydra was green.
And has protection from blue.
Right. But otherwise, it was the same card. Yeah. And Mistcutter Hydra is probably better than this. But here's the thing. This is just awesome. A Hydra Dragon? What? Now, the thing is the reason this card's not necessarily good is because it's never actually efficient on the curve when you're playing, especially in Constructed. It's never efficient on the curve because you're going to pay 2 mana for a 1/1. You're going to pay 3 mana for a 2/2. Now, it having flying and what is it? Haste, that does matter. That is helpful. But like, as far as like how much mana and how much power and toughness it has, it's never actually going to be efficient. However, it's so badass, and there's an extended art alternate version of that, and it's one of the coolest looking cards I've ever seen. It was actually, I think, the first preview card they released for the set, or at least one of them. And this guy, it's just cool. I think in Constructed, the mono red aggro deck, which mono red aggro took a beating with the standard rotation. I don't know if it's how quickly it can recover, if it's going to recover in this current standard, but I would imagine that they're running at least 2 of these as just like, I don't have anything super effective to do this turn. I'm going to dump all my mana into a big creature. And you know what? Sometimes that's all it's going to take to close out a game, especially since it has haste and you can impact the board right away, get in for damage right away. That does matter. So I think this card's sweet. Did you have anything else to add, or do you just think it's cool?
That's pretty much it. You pretty much covered it all. It's just, again, I just like how it's like basically Mistcutter Hydra, but red.
Yeah.
Yeah, a red dragon.
If I end up with a couple, I don't know if I'm necessarily going to go out of my way to buy any copies of this card, but if I end up with any of them, I'm going to find homes for them. Like, they're sweet.
They're sweet. Yeah. All right, number 5 on the list is Impulse. It's an blue instant for 1 colorless and a blue. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 in your hand, and the rest of the bottom library in any order. It's so basic, but it's so good. Because 1, it's an instant. 2, it's any card. Because there's a lot of green stuff. A lot of green cards that say, like, look at the top, however many cards in your library. You can usually
Adventurous Impulse is the one that I think of, which is for a single green mana sorcery.
Yeah.
Look at the top. I think it's 5, and you can put a land or a creature card among them.
Right, like land or creature. But Impulse is any card.
Right.
Whatever you want. I'd say this is debatably, it's just good in every blue deck.
Well, so
Really.
I agree that's probably good in any not any blue deck, I would say.
Most.
But if you're playing a Spellslinger deck, if you care a lot about playing at instant speed, it's also good for just trying to find the right card you need. I found in Limited, this card is incredibly helpful because your deck's obviously not very well tuned. So if you're like, I cannot afford to miss a land drop this turn, I got to find a land, or I need to find a creature, or I need to find my removal, this is the best way in Limited to just get a little bit deeper into your deck and find what you need. But even in Commander Constructed, this is awesome. We see effects like this just be off the chart. Expressive Iteration just rotate out of Standard, and that card was broken. That card should have been banned in Standard, and actually maybe it was banned in Standard. I guess I don't remember. Or no, it wasn't. It should have been, but I think it got banned in Legacy, and I don't think that this is. It's definitely not as good as Expressive Iteration, but Expressive Iteration is 2 colors. It's not as good as Brainstorm, unless if you're not playing a lot of fetch lands, I would say that this is better than Brainstorm. But you also have to compete with like Preordain and cards like that. But even then, in the decks that are playing those cards, this might just be a nice extra add. And some of those cards are banned in Modern. And Impulse it's been reprinted in a couple Commander decks, I think, or like Battle Bond or something. So it's been legal in Commander for a long time, but this is by far the newest printing that it's had in a long time. So it's finally going to be Modern legal. So just the fact that a lot of those other setup cards are banned in Modern, and this card's finally going to be legal in Modern, is going to be really, really sweet. And then also because it's a common, I think it's going to do some work in Pauper as well. So I'm terrified at what this card's impact is going to be. I think these kinds of effects are always busted, but I think they're sweet.
Yeah. You're pretty much covering all the bases today. Number 4 on the list, we have Sarah Paragon. It's a creature, angel, 3/4. Mana value is 2 colorless and 2 white. Obviously, that's fine because it's an angel. Once during each
Bold of you to assume.
Once during each of your turns, you may play a land from your graveyard or cast a permanent spell with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard. If you do, it gains when this permanent is put into a graveyard from the battlefield. Exile it, and you gain 2 life. This card is basically like...
It's like a slightly worse version of Sun Titan.
I would argue it's almost better than... what's it called? Sun Titan.
Sun Titan.
Sun Titan. Because it is a weaker creature overall, but you'll be able to do that ability each of your turns.
Rebuttal. Sun Titan does it on enter the battlefield.
Yeah.
So you get it right away. Whereas this card, you have to wait until you have the mana to do it. So if you cast this on turn 4, you probably can't do anything unless you have like a fetch land or something in your graveyard. And you actually have to cast these, whereas Sun Titan you don't, right? You just get to put it back. However...
casting's better, though, because then you would get any enter the battlefield effect.
You get enter the battlefield effects no matter what. It's just cast triggers you would miss.
That's right. That's what I meant to say.
Does that matter much outside of like the Eldrazi? I don't think that matters very much.
I don't know, maybe.
So my argument would be that Sun Titan is probably still better, but it's 2 more mana and it doesn't have flying. And it's this is it's you have to actually spend the mana on the thing. If you lose it, you can't keep looping it like you can with Sun Titan. Sun Titan, you can abuse the snot out of it.
I mean, you could blink Sun Titan for sure.
Right.
Kind of like...
and it does that again whenever you attack.
Oh, that's a good point. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So
potentially you can do it.
I think it's situational.
Yeah.
I think in certain... But the fact that this is only 4 mana... So if you have like... if you have a fetch land in your graveyard and you missed your land drop, you plop this sucker down and you get that land from your graveyard or something. Or if you cast this on turn 5, you can get a 1 drop back from your graveyard. you have to think ahead about it, but in most circumstances, I would say this is probably just as good as Sun Titan. Maybe not quite as good, but just as good. But my favorite deck right now to play in Standard is Mono White Aggro. And we did lose some cool cards with the rotation, but I mean, Dominaria United brought us so many new sweet toys to play with. And this is now a great add-on into the deck. And especially since a lot of those cards are really small, it's really important. And something else to keep in mind is it gets back all of the channel lands from Kamigawa. Because if you channel them for their ability, then this lets you then play it again as a land drop later in the game. Did you have anything else to add about it? Like
it also has a little bit of life gain.
Yeah. So I think it's sweet. I think it's badass. It's not. I don't think it's like a white staple in the same way that Sun Titan is, because Sun Titan is just, especially in Commander. If we're talking strictly Commander, Sun Titan's probably more of a staple because it's just going to be better overall value. But in a lot of certain decks, like if you're playing a lot of stuff that's lower on the curve, this is going to be sweet.
Alrighty, so number 3 on the list, we have Defiler of Dreams, which is a Phyrexian Sphinx creature for 3 colorless and 2 blue for 3 Sphinx with flying, Phyrexian Sphinx. As an addition, to cast blue permanent spells you may pay to life. Those spells cost a blue less to cast if you paid life this way. This effect reduces only the amount of blue mana you pay. Whenever you cast a blue permanent spell, draw a card.
I think this is sweet. I think all of the defilers have that text of basically giving your colored blips Phyrexian mana. Which turns out is busted. There's a reason that a lot of the Phyrexian mana cards are banned in some formats, is because they're just super effective. And these don't do the same thing as like Phyrexian Probe, or that's not what it's called. The Probe, the 1 blue mana instant, look at opponent's hand, draw a card. Like that's busted because you could just pay the 2 life and play it in any deck and draw a card. Like that was busted. So this is like a fair way to do it because you have to basically still be playing those colors. But I think all of the defilers are pretty decent in most situations. I thought they would have a bigger effect on Standard than they're having. I realize that we've only been in the current Standard for a week, but I feel like I would have seen them more there. Maybe it's only a matter of time, but I think these are going to be Commander All-Stars. And the blue one, I think we have one other of the defilers on our list, and I think this one and that one are going to be the best ones, but I think all of them are playable for the most part. And it's also cool that this specifically wants blue permanents, because I think a lot of blue decks are very spell heavy. So having to then be like, all right, what are some just like really good blue creatures? Because a lot of those cards, they cost a lot of mana. So be like, all right, I'll lose a little bit of life and still get to play my awesome giant Kraken or whatever. I think it's going to be really sweet in Commander.
Right.
Did you have anything else to add on that one?
That was pretty much it. I mean, the main thing I was thinking was, I can't see this being like super good in like Standard or anything like that, but in Commander, yeah, for sure. All right, number 2 on the list is Sheoldred the Apocalypse, legendary creature Phyrexian Praetor, for 2 colorless and 2 black, 4/5 with Death Touch. Whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life. Whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. It's basic, but it's so cool.
These are the kind of legendary creatures I like, where they're really powerful, but it's like 1 or 2 sentences, and that's it.
It's
Like
simple,
it's a simple, clean
it's not
design.
Broken, but it's really good.
This is black decks are so freaking busted right now with they have like a lot of really efficient creatures. This being one of them. You got the Meat Hook Massacre. Like black decks and Standard are so busted right now. Like this doesn't look like a card that would necessarily be Standard playable because the black shell is already so good. It's just going in a lot of decks. And really, this hits the battlefield. And if you don't have the removal for it, because here's the thing, it doesn't have any kind of protection, right? It doesn't have ward, it doesn't have hexproof, it's not indestructible.
Nope.
You can kill it in combat, but a lot of people just choose not to attack with it. But the thing is like that 2 life starts adding up so quickly both. I mean, that's in one turn rotation. That's a 4 life separation between you and your opponent in a 1v1 situation, right? Because you're going to gain 2 life when you draw a card. Your opponent's going to lose 2. That's a 4 life point situation. So if you go a couple turns and you're not able to get rid of Shieldred, the game just got away from you, and there's nothing you can do about it at that point. And then I think it's going to get even crazier in multiplayer. I have a Quasar deck that cares about drawing cards, gaining life, draining your opponents. This is going to slot in there real nice. Steven, are you going to find a home for this, or do you just think it's cool?
I just think it's cool. I mean,
that was me with the Shivan Hydra. I'm just like, it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, same
I don't know
way.
if I'd
Like,
play
I
it.
don't think I'd play Shivan Hydra or Shieldred necessarily,
But
or at least
sweet.
that I can think of in any
Yeah.
of my decks. But like, it is just a sweet card, and if I, build a deck where I feel like something like that would be great, I'll definitely add it to it. It's a great card. It's just a good black card. Period. I mean,
Yeah.
anyways.
All right, so Steven, what is the last card on our list?
This is both of our top ones. So this, right? Or was it just averaged? I mean, I know you averaged
Well,
it,
this
so
yeah,
was
the
this-
list
was-
is averaged. This was like my number 2 or 3 on the list.
Anyways,
Yeah,
this was my
number
number one. And our average number one, Defiler of Vigor, which is the other Phyrexian
It's
the other Defiler. Yeah,
that
the
was
other
on our
Defiler,
list.
Phyrexian. So it's a Phyrexian worm, 6/6, mana value 3 and 2 green. The Phyrexian worm has trample as an additional cost to cast. Yeah, so it's got that thing. It's an additional cost to cast.
The
green
pseudo Phyrexian mana.
Green permanent spells. You may pay 2 life. Those spells cost a green less. If you paid life this way, the effect reduces only the amount of green mana you pay. Whenever you cast a green permanent spell, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control.
This card is so freaking busted.
I love it.
It's so freaking broken. I don't know if I said this earlier when we were talking about Defiler of Dreams, but I'm glad that they finally found a quote fair way to do Phyrexian mana. I don't think it's that fair, but like, relative to the old version, but and I think all of the Defilers are kind of playable, at least in Commander. But this one I think is actually probably playable in Standard as well, just because
I could see it if you're
there's
if you're
a
heavy
decent
on green.
mono green deck right now that was it's a lot worse because like Asika's Chariot rotated out of Standard and the Innkeeper and stuff. Like there's definitely some mono green aggro is definitely not as good as it was, but this one is also just ahead of the curve. Like it's a 5 mana 6/6 with trample.
Right. So
like what the
that
heck?
that
Like,
by itself
that already
is
puts it
good.
above the curve of all the other Defilers. But
And-
you play a lot more green than I do. Why don't you talk about this card more?
I'd say if you're playing, my bad. If you're playing a green deck that is very heavy, not even necessarily on creatures, but just permanents, because it's just green permanent spells, right? You put a 1 counter on each creature you control. So, I mean, you're just buffing up your entire board by simply playing a green spell.
So
It's just good.
this card is so insane because you don't even have to play mono green in order for it to be good. You
Yeah,
can
you
just have
could- yeah.
a lot of green permanents
Yeah.
and it be good. Like I have an Atraxa deck and like, I don't know, over a third of the deck is green. I might just put it in there just because, well, Atraxa is broken and proliferates, but this is busted in Atraxa. If you have an Atraxa deck and it's got a good chunk of green, but I think if you have a creature heavy deck and you just have a lot of green, you don't even have to play mono green. I think this card is just insane in Commander. And then I think it has maybe not necessarily right now, but at some point in the next 2 years of it being in Standard, I could see it making some moves there at some point.
Yeah, I love this card. I just love...
Well, green's your favorite color, right?
Green is my most played color in Magic and Commander. And, I mean, I just have like a mono green deck it's basically just very creature heavy. It's a very basic green deck where you're just mana ramping a lot, playing a lot of big creatures. This is definitely going in there.
So we have a Commander playthrough series that's coming out soon. We have season 1 set up as far as like who's playing what games, what the themes are for every episode for season 1. Are you playing your mono green deck at all? I don't remember.
I don't know. I'd like to. It's fun. Like it's not. I'm not doing anything crazy with the deck. I'm not doing anything.
It's
that's
mostly
like,
just.
It's
here's
mostly
a big creature.
It's mostly mana ramp and then just playing a lot of big creatures. And I mean that's it. It's a mono green deck with Ronos the Indomitable as the commander because I just love Ronos. And
I was going to ask, are you going to get if you were going to play that deck this season? If you were going to try to get one of these before the season,
I would
started?
definitely love to. Yeah, 'cause, I mean that's definitely going in the deck. If I play Ronos at all this season, yeah, I definitely would want that card for the deck for sure.
Well, so we talked about a total of 14 cards here, I think, today.
14 total.
So we each had 2 honorable mentions. We had our top 10, but I mean, between the standard set and the commander decks that came out, there's a ton of new cards that we obviously can't talk about all of them. And these are, everyone plays differently. Everyone has different colors we like to play, different archetypes that we like to play. So let us know in the comments what some of your favorite cards from the new set are. What are you excited to play? Are there any cards like with us with Shieldred or Shivan Dragon where it's just like, this is a sweet card, I don't necessarily want to play it, but it's awesome?
Yeah.
Are there any cards like that for you? Let us know in the comments down below. Make sure you're subscribed. We're starting pre-pro for the Commander playthrough series very soon. We'll have more Magic content on the way soon as well. Give it up for Stay for doing a lot of the editing on this podcast. I've been doing pretty much all of the editing for the entire existence of this YouTube channel, so him helping out is what's going to help keep this channel going, especially because once the Commander playthrough series starts, that will take up my next 5-6 months, and I will not be able to do anything else. So him helping make other videos is going to help keep this channel nice and strong while that's going.
You think?
Anything else you want to say before we wrap this episode up?
I just think real quick, I want to say that, first of all, I love that we're going back to Dominaria because last time we were there, I loved it. And I think... Huh?
No, go ahead. I'll say it after what you're saying.
But also, I think just looking at all the cards that are released in the set, there are so many cards that Magic makes, Magic the Gathering that they put out.
Yeah, I mean we have
that
four standard sets a year, and then on top of all the Commander decks that they do, they have the other sets, the remastered sets, the Modern Horizons,
and
whatever.
So in a lot of those sets, it's there aren't that many things that are that good. But in Dominaria, looking at all the cards, it's I feel like most of the cards in the set are just objectively good cards, and that there could be a place in many decks.
Well, yeah, and I've played a lot. I've played more limited for this set than I have in any other set in recent years, other than maybe Kamigawa. I played a decent amount of limited for Kamigawa, but even a lot of the commons and the uncommons in this set are just bonkers strong.
Yeah,
at least in the limited sense. It's oh, I never expected this to go so well. I will say this set is that what I was going to say is last Dominaria was a lot more fun for draft. The 2018 Dominaria, I think, is when that set came out. That set was way more fun to draft than this one.
That was 4 years ago.
It's weird to think that it's been that long, because when we got into Magic summer of 2016.
It was when Eldritch Moon...
Shadows over Innistrad was the newest set at the time.
Moon was the first pre-release one, too.
Eldritch Moon was the first pre-release, so what the other sets legal at the time were Oath of the Gatewatch, Zendikar,
Battle for Zendikar.
Magic Origins was probably still legal. Kaladesh was right around the corner.
Oh yeah, Kaladesh.
So it's in my mind that seems like a recent Magic history, but I mean that was 6 years ago. So it's crazy to think that we've been playing that long, and I would still consider us noobs when it comes to Magic, because
for sure. I by no means consider myself a veteran.
Yeah, so it's just cool that the game has that kind of longevity. Yeah, it's cool that the game has that kind of longevity, and it seems like it's going to keep going strong. Next year looks sweet. So yeah, again, let us know what some of your favorite cards from this set are. Do you want us to make another one of these videos when the next set comes out? Let us know that as well, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.